Hey everyone, sorry it has been a while since I have updated our blog, Life as Us Seppalas Know It. Been a little busy with the twins, but right now I have 2 babies sleeping and 1 toddler downstairs making cookies with Dad. I have not done a update on, or I guess not an update, a summary on kind of what had happened with the twins and our labor and delivery and the NICU, so I thought I would just take a moment and just send out an update and just kind of share the story of what happened. This is, oh, by the way, this is Bo for all you fans out there, or at least my mom, who I know will watch this probably a couple times. This is baby Bo right here. Just show you guys. That's baby Bo. He's sound asleep. Anyways, very proud of my baby Bo. So, yeah. As many of you know, we were expecting mono-di twins. If you don't know what mono-di twins are, they are medium-risk twins. They share one placenta, but they're in like different membranes. So the reason why they're considered to be a little bit higher risk is because there's something called twin-to-twin transfusion, and because they share a placenta, one twin could start taking more than the other. So on September 20th, I went for an ultrasound. I had been having ultrasounds every 2 weeks. Everything was looking fairly normal up until this ultrasound when baby B, which was Brighton, all of a sudden was showing that he was oligo, which means developing low fluid, which can be a sign of twin-to-twin transfusion. They thought maybe I was leaking fluid, maybe there was twin-to-twin transfusion going on, but they couldn't really tell exactly what was going on. They said that they looked like they both were growing fine and getting good blood flow, so they really didn't know what was going on other than that there was hardly any fluid in Brighton's sac. They, from there, were giving me steroid shots, so I went and had my doctor's appointment, and they discovered that not only was I having a lot of contractions, but I was also dilating. So into the hospital I went. My biggest fear came true. I think I had a lot of anxiety just over the pregnancy. Like, what happens if I get hospitalized? What happens if I have to be separated from Elijah, our 2-year-old? And it came true, and I was hospitalized for a total of 6 days. It was probably out of this whole long endeavor was probably the hardest week of my life because it was just very, lonely. I didn't have babies to take care of. I just had to sit there, and if I walked, I would start having more contractions, So there just really wasn't a lot to do, and just the thought of I should be home with my baby, I should be home preparing. Keeping a hormonal pregnant woman in a room where she can't nest, probably not the best thing, but it was the best thing for me. Probably not the best thing emotionally, but it definitely was the best thing for me at the moment. So, 6 days I was there, and I'll tell you, it was a good time for me just to spend some time with the Lord, though, and just really focusing and trusting Him. You can get a lot of anxiety thinking, well, what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen the next day? What's going to happen? Are they going to be okay? Is something going to go wrong? And the one thing that the Lord told me through the entire pregnancy was not to worry about tomorrow, like it says in Matthew, but to just focus on today, because today has enough worries of its own. So that was the one thing. People would ask me, well, how do you do it? How do you do it? And I say, you know what? I just take it one day at a time, because if I think about tomorrow, it's not going to be good. So we did one day at a time. Elijah and Roland would come and visit lots, and I often cried because I missed them, and I think I cried more that week and in the week to come than I did in my entire life. But, emotions are good, and that's good for me to show emotion. So, 26th rolls around, September 26th, and I have another ultrasound at the hospital. And at that point, they discover that the membrane is, in fact, wrapping itself around Brighton. They didn't have any medical explanation as to why. They didn't understand. All they knew was that it was. But here's the cool thing, was that it is actually good that there was 2 babies, because if it was just one, the membrane would actually have had an opportunity to like fully wrap around him and could cut off air supply. So it was safer for them to have 2 of them in there than just the one. So that was kind of cool. So Bo later can brag that he saved Brighton's life. So there really was nothing changing, and they decided, well, let's send you home on bed rest, and you need to come in every 2 days for an ultrasound. So we're like, okay, cool. Super excited, got to go home, laid in my bed for 4 hours, and then my water broke. And I was 31 weeks and 6 days pregnant. Well, 31 weeks and 5 days pregnant at that point, and 12 o'clock hit, and I became 31 and 6. And so my water broke, and it was probably, one of the most nerve-wracking things, like, knowing that my water broke and I was going to have these babies early. So back to the hospital we went. I repacked my bags and we went back. On the way to the hospital, I remember just looking at Roland and being like, I'm really scared. I'm not prepared for this. We need to pray. So we just, we prayed and asked the Lord just to have his hands on the boys. And we really didn't, you don't know what to expect when they come that early. They were 8 weeks early. And you don't know whether their lungs are going to be developed all the way because they got the steroid shots, or whether they were going to have other issues because they were so early. But we really just at that point had to go with the peace of the Lord. So we, texted our family and texted our church family and said, please be praying. And I just want to thank everyone who was praying, because we definitely felt the peace of the Lord just over us at that point. And just knowing that no matter what happened, we'd have support. So showed up at the hospital, got us admitted again. I was like, oh, couldn't you guys just skip the admission? I was just here, but technically they can't. And got an epidural. Praise the Lord. I love epidurals. My labor was 4.5 hours, which was awesome, because I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, I do not want a super fast labor like Elijah, because that was torture. And I do not want a long labor, because that sounds like torture. So I want 4 to 5 hours, and I got 4.5 hours. So the doctor showed up, and he looks at me, and he was the doctor who had let me go, and he says, whoops, guess we shouldn't have let you go, and sorry, and we are going to be delivering these babies. So wheeled me to the OR, and I pushed Brighton out. They were both head down, and to begin with. So pushed Brighton out, and then Bo decided that he was not ready to come out, and he decided to flip, and he started coming out knee first. So they needed to, excuse the hand motions, but they needed to shove him back up in there and grab him by the feet, and then they yanked him out. Well, not yanked, but guided him down, and I pushed him out the rest of the way, feet first. And now you know why I was saying thank you, Jesus, for the epidural, because I could not imagine all of that without an epidural. It would have been no fun. So Brighton right away was on room air. He didn't need any oxygen. He was breathing. He was good. He pretty much was just, he was perfect. He was a perfect little baby. And Bo needed oxygen assistance. He was having a little bit of a hard time, probably because he wasn't quite ready and was not ready to be jailbreaked, unlike Brighton was. Guys, you're squishing me. I'm out of here. After delivery, they brought Brighton to me to hold for a little bit, and Bo had to go right to his room because he needed oxygen support. And that was probably one of the hardest things, like not being able to hold both your babies. I think when you're picturing in your head what your labor is going to look like. You think, you know, it's going to be great. My babies are going to come to me. I'm going to hold them. And they're going to be in my room and all this stuff. But that was a different case for us. So then we began the process of living life in the NICU. We were there for 4.5 weeks, and it was a long 4.5 weeks, but a lot of peace throughout the whole thing. At 8 o'clock that morning, I went and was able to see the boys in the NICU. It was the first time I got to really see Bo, which was hard because he had all the headgear on. And I finally got to hold him, and I just remember being so just relieved, but at the same time so scared for him. And they, you know, reassured me, like, you know, he's doing really well. He's on oxygen, but he's doing okay. But when you see your baby all hooked up, it's definitely, you know, your heart is like, he shouldn't be like this. You know, he should be breathing on his own. He should be okay. But the nurses just kept saying, you know, at where the boys are for age-wise and what they are doing as far as breathing and not needing much assistance, that it was amazing. They kept looking at me and being like, they have to be older than what they are. And, you know, we reassured them, like, they are maybe 2 days older than their due date says, but, you know, it's a miracle. And it was really cool just to be able to testify that, you know, God is God, and he created them, and he knew that they were coming early. And, you know, we had a lot of prayer and just being able to share with a lot of the nurses that we really felt that it was because of the prayers of our family and our friends and, you know, our church, that the boys were really successful. And they did a lot of things early. They started nursing early. They started, you know, getting off their tubes early. They say that you should expect to be in the NICU until your due date, which was 2 months, and we left in a month. We kicked that NICU in the butt. What did every day look like in the NICU? Basically, the boys were on a feeding schedule every 4 hours. They would get their tube feedings, or we would nurse depending on what was going on. And they couldn't transfer a lot at first because just being so little and not actually having the ability to suck and swallow. So a lot of it was just practicing. It was the whole month was a lot of working to get them up to being a newborn so we could take them home.
You say we're going home? Yeah, go home.
Yay.
Where are we going? Are we going home? Go home.
So we have been at our in-laws for over a month now, waiting for our rental to be done. Because that's a whole nother story about how our rental flooded, well, the week before we left the NICU. So we've been at our in-laws for a month, and it's just, you know, been very helpful actually to be here, and a blessing as well. And I'm looking forward to getting into our house, and that's going to be a whole new adventure, having to juggle a whole household with under three. I'm looking forward to it, but also a little nervous. And again, for everyone who has been following our blog and looking for updates on the web, I want to thank you for your prayers, and just thank you for staying connected with us via social media. It really does mean a lot to us, and we just really want to thank you. And